chosen one. Why are you awake at this hour? Why did your finger stop scrolling at this exact moment? Why does your chest feel heavy with a knowing you can't explain? Some of you will close your eyes tonight, thinking tomorrow will be just another day of the same struggles, the same unanswered prayers, the same silence from heaven. But the angels already know something you don't. The clock in the courts of eternity is about to strike midnight over your situation, and when it does, everything changes. What if I told you that this isn't just another sleepless night? What if tonight was your final rest in the wilderness? What if you would not wake up to the same person you've been? Listen to me carefully, beloved. If you are hearing this message right now, if something deeper than coincidence pulled you here, it's not to scare you, it's to prepare you. Because heaven has marked this night differently than all the others. For months, maybe years, you've been carrying a weight that has no earthly name. You've prayed until your voice was hoarse. You've cried until there were no tears left. You've waited until hope felt like a cruel joke. But what if I told you that every sleepless night, every tear-stained pillow, every whispered prayer in the darkness, what if all of it was leading to this moment? You see, there's something the enemy doesn't want you to know. There's a reason your rest has been restless. There's a reason your soul won't settle. There's a reason you can't shake the feeling that something massive is about to shift. It's because your final rest in this season is tonight. Tomorrow, you wake up different. The same God who told Lazarus to come forth after 4 days in the tomb is about to speak over your situation. The same voice that called light out of darkness is about to call breakthrough out of your breakdown. The same power that raised Christ from the dead is about to resurrect what you thought was buried forever. But here's what will shock you. You were never meant to survive this season. You were meant to be transformed by it. The fire wasn't trying to destroy you. It was refining you for what's coming. And what's coming will require everything this season has built in you. Before we go deeper into this prophetic moment together, I want to pause and thank every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and sow that seed of faith. If your spirit already feels that this is for you, if something in your chest is trembling with recognition, type, "I'm listening" in the comments right now. Let heaven know you heard the call. Because what I'm about to reveal will shatter every lie you've believed about your future. Tonight, chosen one, your final rest begins. Tomorrow, your resurrection story starts. Are you ready to discover why? Have you been wondering if God still hears your midnight whispers? Have you questioned whether your prayers are bouncing off the ceiling of an empty heaven? Have you felt like you're crying out into a void that swallows your voice without echo? Dear one, what if I told you that what you've interpreted as silence has actually been the sacred pause before the symphony? What you've mistaken for abandonment has been divine preparation. What you've called delay has been deliberate orchestration by the Almighty Himself. Tonight is not random, chosen one. You didn't stumble upon this message. You were summoned here by forces beyond your understanding. The same God who heard Hannah's desperate whisper in the temple when her lips moved but no sound came, when she poured out her soul in silent anguish, that God has been collecting every tear you've shed in secret. 1 Samuel 1:13 tells us Hannah was praying in her heart, and her lips were moving, but her voice was not heard. But look what happened next. God heard what others couldn't see. He answered what others thought was empty air. You think your prayers have been unheard. You think your cries have been ignored. Listen to me carefully, beloved. The prophet Daniel discovered something that will shatter your understanding of divine timing. In Daniel 10:12, the angel said to him, "Do not be afraid, Daniel. Since the first day that you set your mind to gain understanding and to humble yourself before your God, your words were heard. The first day, not the last day, not after weeks of repetition. From the very first moment Daniel opened his mouth in prayer, heaven moved. But the answer took 21 days to reach him. Why? Because there was warfare in the heavenly places. There were forces trying to block what God had already released. Your prayers haven't been ignored, chosen one. They've been under attack. But tonight, the warfare ends. Tonight, the resistance breaks. Tonight, your answer breaks through every barrier that has held it back. For months, maybe years, you've been living with a heaviness in your chest that you can't name. You wake up tired even after sleeping. You go through the motions of faith while your heart whispers doubts you're too ashamed to speak aloud. You've wondered if God has favorites, and you're not one of them. You've watched others receive what you've been praying for, and the jealousy burns like acid in your soul. But here's what the enemy doesn't want you to understand. God's silence isn't indifference, it's artistry. Think about a master painter standing before a canvas. There are moments when the brush stops moving, moments when nothing seems to happen. But the artist isn't abandoning the work. He's studying every line, every shadow, every space that needs the perfect touch. The pause isn't empty. It's pregnant with purpose. You've been God's masterpiece in progress, and tonight is the moment. He applies the final stroke that transforms everything. The waiting hasn't been wasted. It's been the preparation for the revelation. Every tear has been adding depth to the colors. Every prayer has been adding texture to the canvas. Every sleepless night has been part of the divine process that's about to be unveiled. Drop your city and the time you're watching in the comments right now. I want to see where God's remnant is rising. I want to witness this global awakening as it happens in real time across America. But let me tell you something that's going to shake you to your core. Your rest tonight will be different, because heaven has scheduled an intervention. You've been circling the same mountain for too long. You've been knocking on the same door until your knuckles bleed. You've been asking the same questions until your voice is hoarse. But God is about to answer in a way that silences every doubt, settles every question, and opens every door you've been standing behind. The Israelites marched around Jericho for 6 days in complete silence. 6 days of walking the same path, seeing the same walls, facing the same impossibility. Can you imagine their thoughts on day 5? Are we just walking in circles? Has God forgotten what he promised? Maybe this isn't going to work. But on the 7th day, everything changed. The walls didn't gradually crumble. They didn't slowly wear down. In one supernatural moment, what had stood for generations collapsed completely. The sound of their shout aligned with heaven's decree, and the impossible became inevitable. Tonight is your 7th day. Tonight is your moment of collapse. Not your collapse, but the collapse of everything that has stood against God's promise in your life. The walls of delay, the barriers of doubt, the fortresses of fear, they're all coming down. Before this night is over, you will understand why your wait has been so long and why it ends now. You will see that every closed door was protecting you from settling for less than God's best. Every delayed answer was God's way of preparing you for something bigger than what you originally asked for. But here's the urgency you need to grasp. This moment has an expiration date. This divine appointment has a window, and that window is closing. The spiritual climate that allows for this level of breakthrough doesn't stay open indefinitely. Tonight, the conditions are perfect. The spiritual atmosphere is charged. The heavenly court is in session. The question isn't whether God is ready to move. The question is whether you're ready to receive what he's about to release. Are you prepared for your life to look completely different tomorrow morning? Are you ready to wake up to answered prayer instead of another day of waiting? Because, chosen one, what I'm about to reveal next will show you exactly what God has been preparing while you thought he was silent. Listen to me carefully, chosen one. You've been asking the wrong question your entire life. You've been asking, God, why is this taking so long? But heaven has been whispering back, child, why are you in such a hurry to receive what would destroy the unprepared you? Every delay you've cursed. Every door that slammed in your face when you thought breakthrough was finally coming. Every season where it felt like God went silent, just when you needed him most. It wasn't abandonment, it was love. The deepest kind of love, the kind that protects you from blessings you're not ready to handle. You see, there's a story buried in Genesis that will shatter everything you thought you knew about waiting. Joseph, 17 years old, dreaming dreams that made his brother's blood boil with jealousy. God showed him visions of rulership, of his family bowing before him, of a destiny so magnificent it seemed impossible. But then, the pit. His own brothers, the people who should have protected him, threw him into a hole in the ground like he was garbage. Can you imagine? Betrayed by blood, sold like cattle to strangers. Watching his father's house disappear over the horizon, knowing he might never see home again. How many of you know that betrayal? How many of you have felt the knife twist in your back from people you trusted? Your own children who stopped calling, friends who disappeared when your money ran out, churches that pushed you aside when you got too old to serve their agenda. But Joseph's story was just beginning. Slavery in Egypt, working for Potiphar, building a reputation, gaining trust, only to have it all destroyed by a lie. One woman's false accusation and everything he'd rebuilt crumbled. Prison. Years of watching the sun rise and set through iron bars, wondering if God had forgotten the dreams he'd given. 13 years. 13 years between the dream and the palace. 13 years of wondering if he'd heard God correctly. 13 years of other prisoners getting released while he stayed behind. 13 years of silence from heaven. But here's what Joseph couldn't see from his cell. Every betrayal was building his character. Every false accusation was developing his integrity. Every year in prison was teaching him to depend on God alone, not on people, not on circumstances, not on his own understanding. You think your waiting has been long? You think your 70s are too late? You think your 80s mean you missed your moment? Listen to what the Spirit is saying. Moses was 80 when God called him from a burning bush. 80. Abraham was 99 when God renewed his covenant. Sarah was 90 when she laughed at the impossible and then birthed it. Your age isn't disqualification, it's qualification. Every wrinkle tells a story of endurance. Every gray hair is a crown of wisdom. Every scar proves you survived what should have killed you. But let me tell you something that will shock you to your core. You know why your health declined when it did? You know why your finances took that hit in 2008. You know why that relationship fell apart just when you thought you'd found companionship. Because God saw what was coming in your future, and He knew you needed to be stripped of everything you were depending on besides Him. That heart attack at 68 wasn't trying to kill you, it was killing your self-reliance. That bankruptcy wasn't destroying your future, it was destroying your trust in money. That loneliness wasn't punishment, it was preparation for a calling that requires complete dependence on the voice of God. Think about the mighty oak tree in Central Park. For the first 20 years of its life, you see nothing impressive above ground, just a sapling, vulnerable to every storm. But what you can't see is what's happening beneath the surface. Roots growing deep, spreading wide, creating a foundation so strong that a century later, hurricanes can't move it. While shallow trees with pretty flowers get praised and photographed, the oak does its work in secret, underground, unseen, building strength that will support massive weight, height that will touch the sky, branches that will shelter generations. That's been your life, chosen one. While others seem to get quick success, fast results, immediate answers, you were growing roots, deep roots, strong roots, roots that can handle the weight of what God is about to place in your branches. But here's the question that will change everything. What if you're not waiting for the blessing? What if the blessing has been waiting for you to become the person who can carry it without it destroying you? Joseph didn't just survive 13 years of preparation, he was transformed by them. When Pharaoh's dream needed interpreting, when Egypt needed saving from famine, when his own family needed rescue, there was only one man ready. Not because he was lucky, because he was prepared. Your character had to catch up to your calling. Your capacity had to expand to match your destiny. Your faith had to be tested until it became unshakable. Your heart had to be broken until it learned to heal others. Your strength had to fail until you learned to operate in His strength alone. And now, right now, as you sit there thinking you're too old, too tired, too late, heaven is saying the preparation is complete. The roots are deep enough, the foundation is strong enough, the character is solid enough. The weight you've carried wasn't meant to crush you, it was meant to strengthen you for what you're about to carry. And what you're about to carry will require every ounce of wisdom, every drop of compassion, every bit of endurance that this season has built into your soul. But the question burning in heaven right now is this: are you ready to stop seeing yourself as someone who's been waiting and start seeing yourself as someone who's been prepared? You've been walking around the same mountain for 7 years. 7 long, grueling years of the same prayer, the same tears, the same midnight conversations with God where you asked, how much longer? 7 years of watching others get their breakthrough while you stayed locked in the same cycle. But something just shifted in the heavenly realm. Do you remember the story of Jericho? For 6 days, the Israelites marched around those massive walls in complete silence. 6 days of walking the same path, staring at the same obstacles, facing the same impossibilities. The walls looked exactly the same on day 6 as they did on day 1. Nothing had changed. Nothing had moved. Can you imagine what they must have felt? The doubt creeping in. Are we just walking in circles? Has God forgotten us? Maybe this isn't going to work. But Joshua knew something they didn't understand yet. God's timing is never early, and it's never late. It's always precisely perfect. Dear chosen one, you've been walking around your Jericho for too long. That addiction that's haunted your family for 3 generations, that's your Jericho. That financial curse that has kept you bound in poverty while watching your neighbors prosper, that's your Jericho. That loneliness that makes you question if God even sees you anymore, that's your Jericho. But tonight, this very moment you're hearing my voice is your 7th day. I need you to understand something that will shake you to your core. In the courts of heaven, there are calendars made of gold. Each page represents a season in your life. And right now, as I speak these words, I can see the angels turning the page on your waiting season. The page is massive, glowing with divine light, and as it flips, every demon assigned to your delay is being recalled. Every force that has been holding up your answer is being commanded to stand down. The spiritual atmosphere over your life is shifting from resistance to release. Joshua 6:20 records what happened next. When the trumpet sounded, the army shouted, and at the sound of the trumpet, when the men gave a loud shout, the wall collapsed. The wait is over. Let that penetrate every cell in your body. Let it sink into the marrow of your bones. Let it rewrite the narrative you've been telling yourself about your future. The wait is over, and nothing in earth or hell can stop what God has spoken. But here's what the enemy doesn't want you to know. Here's what he's been fighting to keep hidden from you. Those walls at Jericho didn't fall because of the marching. They fell because of the shout. They fell because after 6 days of silent obedience, the people finally opened their mouths and declared what God had already promised. You've been marching in silence for too long. You've been enduring in quiet desperation, whispering prayers that barely escape your lips, hoping that somehow your whispered faith will be enough to move mountains. But God is calling you to shout. Not scream, not yell in desperation. Shout with authority. Shout with the confidence of someone who knows that what God has promised, He is also able to perform. Romans 4:17 tells us that God calls those things which do not exist as though they did. He doesn't wait for them to manifest before He speaks them into existence. He speaks them, and then they manifest. Right now, in this very moment, heaven is dispatching angels to your address. I'm not speaking metaphorically, I'm speaking prophetically. Psalm 91:11 declares, "For He shall give His angels charge over thee, to keep thee in all thy ways." These aren't guardian angels coming to protect you. These are assignment angels coming to deliver what has been held up for too long. They carry scrolls with your name written in gold. They carry keys to doors that have been locked against you. They carry the very thing you've been crying out for in the midnight hours. But there is one thing, one act, that will decide whether this word becomes your reality or just another inspiring story you heard on YouTube. You have to open your mouth and declare it. Your silence has been interpreted as doubt. Your quiet endurance has been mistaken for resignation. But God is calling you out of silent suffering into vocal victory. Think about it. When Jesus called Lazarus from the tomb, he didn't whisper. John 11:43 says he cried with a loud voice, "Lazarus, come forth." The dead man had been in the grave for 4 days, but at the sound of Jesus' voice, death itself had to release its grip. Your situation may look dead. Your marriage, your finances, your health, your dreams, they may all look like they're wrapped in grave clothes, sealed behind a stone of impossibility. But when you open your mouth and declare what God has already decreed, even death has to obey. Ezekiel 37:4 records God's command to the prophet, "Prophesy to these bones and say unto them, O ye dry bones, hear the word of the Lord." The bones were dry, they were scattered, they looked hopeless. But when Ezekiel opened his mouth and spoke God's word over them, there was a noise, and behold, a shaking, and the bones came together, bone to his bone. Your declaration creates the earthquake that brings dead things back to life. But you have to believe that your voice carries heaven's authority. You have to understand that when you speak in alignment with God's promises, you're not just expressing hope, you're releasing power. The clock in heaven has shifted from your waiting season to your manifestation season. The calendar has flipped from delay to delivery. The assignment angels are already in motion. If you believe your season has shifted, declare it right now. The wait is over for me. Don't just think it. Don't just hope it. Declare it with the authority of someone who knows that what God has promised, He will also bring to pass. Because what happens next will determine whether you wake up tomorrow still carrying the same burdens, or whether you wake up carrying the very thing you've been praying for. Dear chosen one, I need to ask you something that might cut deep into your soul. How many times have you missed God's answer because it didn't look like what you expected? How many times has heaven sent you exactly what you prayed for, but you walked right past it because it was wrapped in ordinary paper instead of golden ribbon? You see, the enemy's greatest weapon against God's people isn't temptation, it's disappointment. He knows that if he can break your heart enough times, you'll start protecting yourself by expecting less. You'll lower your spiritual antenna. You'll stop looking for miracles because looking hurts too much when they don't come the way you imagined. Some of you have been so wounded by unanswered prayers that you've unconsciously built walls around your expectations. You've told yourself, I won't get my hopes up this time. I won't believe too hard. I won't expect too much. But beloved, when you stop expecting God to move, you stop recognizing Him when He does. Listen to me carefully. God's answers rarely come dressed like answers. They come disguised as ordinary moments, chance encounters, small opportunities that your natural mind wants to dismiss. They come like seeds, tiny, unimpressive, easily overlooked, but carrying entire forests within their DNA. Let me take you back to Mount Carmel with the prophet Elijah. This man had just called down fire from heaven. He had defeated 450 prophets of Baal in the greatest spiritual showdown in Old Testament history. But now, he's praying for rain after 3.5 years of drought. 1 Kings 18:43 tells us what happened next. Elijah sent his servant to look toward the sea. Go and look, he said. The servant went and looked. There is nothing there, he reported. 7 times Elijah said, Go back. But on the 7th time, the servant returned with news that would change everything. A cloud as small as a man's hand is rising from the sea. A cloud as small as a man's hand. In a sky that had been empty for over 3 years, this tiny wisp of vapor was barely visible. Any reasonable person would have said, That's nothing. That's not enough. We need more than that. But Elijah recognized something his servant couldn't see. That small cloud wasn't the beginning of the answer, it was the answer, just in seed form. Within hours, that tiny cloud became a storm so fierce that King Ahab had to race his chariot to avoid being caught in the downpour. What looked insignificant carried the power to end a national disaster. But here's what breaks my heart about God's people today. We've become so obsessed with big, obvious miracles that we despise the day of small beginnings. We want burning bushes, but we ignore the gentle flame. We want parted seas, but we dismiss the ripples. We want earthquakes, but we sleep through the whispers. Moses almost made this same mistake. Exodus 3:2 says, "There the angel of the Lord appeared to him in flames of fire from within a bush. Moses saw that though the bush was on fire, it did not burn up." But notice what verse 3 tells us. "So Moses thought, I will go over and see this strange sight, why the bush does not burn up." Moses had to make a decision. He could have kept walking. He could have dismissed it as a natural phenomenon. The burning bush wasn't forcing itself on him. It was waiting for his attention, his curiosity, his willingness to turn aside and investigate what seemed unusual. How many burning bushes have you walked past because you were too busy, too hurt, or too disappointed to turn aside? How many divine appointments have you missed because they came wearing work clothes instead of angel wings? Right now, as I'm speaking to you, there's a small cloud forming in your life. It might be that phone call you received yesterday that you almost didn't take. It might be that unexpected invitation that seemed too good to be true. It might be that person who keeps showing up in your life at the strangest times. It might be that opportunity that seems too small to matter, that dream that feels too simple to be significant. You've been praying for a storm of blessing, but you're about to dismiss the cloud that's carrying it because it doesn't look impressive enough. You've been crying out for breakthrough, but you're going to walk past the burning bush because it's not on fire the way you expected. Here's what the Spirit of God wants you to understand tonight. When God begins to answer your prayer, He often starts with something so small that only faith can recognize it. Why? Because He wants to know if you'll trust Him with the seed before He gives you the harvest. He wants to see if you'll honor the whisper before He speaks in thunder. That dream you buried because people laughed at it, that small cloud. That idea that keeps coming back to you in quiet moments, that small cloud. That relationship you think is too good to be true, that small cloud. That opportunity that seems beneath your qualifications, that small cloud. God is reawakening your expectation tonight because your breakthrough is already in motion. It's not coming, it's here. It's just still in seed form, waiting for you to recognize it, water it with faith, and nurture it with obedience. But you have to stop despising small beginnings. You have to stop dismissing the ordinary miracles. You have to retrain your eyes to see God's fingerprints on everyday moments. That small cloud in your life right now, it's not carrying drops of rain, it's carrying a storm of blessing that will flood every dry area of your existence. But only those who have eyes to see and hearts to believe will position themselves to receive the downpour. The question that will determine your destiny is this: will you have the spiritual sensitivity to recognize your answer when it arrives in unexpected packaging? Because, beloved, your miracle is already moving. The only question is whether you'll spot it before it passes by. And that's exactly what I'm about to show you in the prophetic instruction that's coming next: how to position yourself to receive what God has already released. Listen to me, chosen one. You've felt the stirring, you've heard the call, but feeling and hearing mean nothing without obedience. God didn't bring you this far to leave you unchanged. He brought you here to give you marching orders. Joshua stood at the edge of the Jordan River for 40 years of waiting. The water was raging. The current was deadly. But God didn't say, wait until it calms down. He said, step into the water. Because God's promises don't manifest in your comfort zone, they manifest in your obedience zone. The moment Joshua's feet touched that water, the impossible became inevitable. The river that had been flowing for centuries stopped. Not because the circumstances changed, because one man chose to move when God said move. Tonight is your Jordan moment. But too many of you are still standing on the bank, waiting for conditions to be perfect, waiting for the fear to go away, waiting for more confirmation. But God is saying the same thing. He said to Joshua, "I will not give you the land unless you take steps to possess it." Here's what the enemy doesn't want you to understand. Your breakthrough isn't waiting for you to feel ready. Your breakthrough is waiting for you to act ready. Faith isn't a feeling, beloved. Faith is movement. Faith is getting up tomorrow morning like your answer is guaranteed. Faith is preparing for rain when there's not a cloud in the sky. So let me give you your prophetic instructions. These aren't suggestions. These are divine commands for those who refuse to die in the wilderness. First, wake with expectation daily. Stop waking up like nothing's going to change. Stop starting your day rehearsing yesterday's disappointments. The moment your eyes open tomorrow morning, the first words out of your mouth should be, "Thank you, Lord, for what you're about to do today." Because expectation is the atmosphere where miracles thrive. When you wake up expecting nothing, you position yourself to receive nothing. But when you wake up knowing that this could be the day, this could be the moment, you align yourself with the frequency of heaven's movement in your life. Second, thank God before you see it. This will separate the mature believers from the spiritual children. Anyone can praise God after the miracle, but faith praises God in the gap between the promise and the performance. Daniel thanked God for deliverance while he was still in the lion's den. The 3 Hebrew boys thanked God for protection while walking into the fire. David praised God for victory while Goliath was still standing. Your gratitude in advance is your declaration that God's word is already settled. It's your announcement to hell that you're not moved by what you see, you're moved by what you know. Third, prepare physically for what you prayed for. If you're believing for rain, dig the trenches. If you're believing for healing, make the doctor's appointment to get the good report. If you're believing for restoration, clean the guest room. If you're believing for provision, research the investments. Faith without preparation is presumption. God honors the heart that says, "I believe." You're going to do it, so I'm getting ready to receive it. Your preparation isn't pressure on God, it's proof to God that your faith is real. Fourth, stay ready for sudden instructions. When God decides to move, He doesn't send a calendar invitation. He gives instructions and expects immediate obedience. Abraham got up at dawn to sacrifice Isaac. Moses stretched out his rod over the Red Sea in real time. Mary said yes to the angel before she understood the full implications. Some of you have been so comfortable in the waiting that you're not ready for the moving. But God is about to give you instructions that will require immediate action. Don't be caught unprepared because you thought you had more time to process. Keep your spiritual ears open. Keep your heart surrendered. Keep your life uncluttered so that when He says go, you can go. When He says speak, you can speak. When He says move, you're not tangled up in disobedience or distraction. Now here's where this gets personal. Here's where the rubber meets the road. If this were your final night on earth, if you knew you wouldn't wake up tomorrow, what would you regret not doing? What seeds would you wish you had planted? What prayers would you wish you had prayed? What steps would you wish you had taken? But what if it's not your final night of life? What if it's your final night of limitation? What if you're not dying, you're being reborn? What if this isn't the end of your story, it's the end of the chapter called waiting? The question that will haunt you for eternity is this: will you die holding your seed, or will you die planting it? Too many believers take their assignments to the grave. They die with books unwritten, businesses unstared, ministries unborn, because they spent their whole lives waiting for permission from people instead of seeking obedience to God. But not you. Not tonight. Not anymore. Right now, this very moment, God is extending His hand toward you. He's offering you a covenant that will change everything. Not a contract based on your performance, a covenant based on His faithfulness. If you're ready to stop being a spectator in your own deliverance, if you're ready to move from observer to participant, if you're ready to wake up tomorrow as someone who walks in authority instead of anxiety, then this is Poppings, your moment. Type "I'm ready" in the comments right now. Not as a casual response, as a public covenant. You're not just watching this message, you're aligning with it. You're declaring to heaven and hell that you refuse to die in the wilderness when the promised land is within reach. Because tomorrow morning, when you open your eyes, you're either going to wake up the same person who went to sleep, or you're going to wake up as someone who finally said yes to their destiny. The choice is yours. The moment is now. Your final rest in this season starts tonight. What are you going to do about it? The streets outside are silent, but heaven is not sleeping. Angels are pacing the corridors of your destiny. While your neighborhood sleeps, the throne room of the Almighty is alive with movement, with purpose, with declarations being made over your life that will reshape your tomorrow. You see, chosen one, your final rest is also your rise, but before the sunrise comes, there's this deep, sacred watch, this holy vigil where eternity leans in so close you can feel its breath on your soul. Psalm 121:4 declares, "He who watches over Israel will neither slumber nor sleep." While you toss and turn, wrestling with thoughts that won't quiet, God is wide awake, orchestrating miracles you can't yet see. His eyes never close on your situation. His attention never wavers from your pain. But let me ask you something that might cut deep tonight. How many nights have you been awake at 2 a.m., staring at the ceiling, your mind racing with worries that feel bigger than your faith? How many times have you sat on the edge of your bed, calculator in hand, trying to figure out how you'll make it through another month? The mortgage payment that's due, the prescription you can't afford, the social security check that doesn't stretch like it used to. How many nights have you wept over that prodigal child who hasn't called in months? That son who chose the streets over your prayers? That daughter who walked away from everything you taught her? You lie there wondering if your parenting was enough, if your love was enough, if your God is enough to bring them home. And what about the regrets that visit you in the darkness? The chances you didn't take, the words you should have spoken, the dreams you abandoned because life got in the way. The what-ifs that play like a broken record in your mind until dawn breaks. I know you've been there. I know you're there right now, because God doesn't wake His chosen ones at random hours just to make them comfortable. He wakes you because there's something He only says in the middle of the night, and I believe tonight He is saying it to you. You see, there's a reason your sleep has been restless lately. There's a reason you keep waking at strange hours, your heart pounding with anticipation you can't name. It's because you're being called into the night watch. This is where God does His deepest work. This is where breakthrough is birthed. This is where the impossible becomes inevitable. Remember Gideon? God came to him not in the brightness of day, but in the hidden hours. "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior," the angel said to a man who was hiding in fear. But it was in that midnight moment that Gideon's destiny was awakened. One conversation with heaven changed everything. Think about Samuel, just a boy when God called his name in the darkness of the temple. 3 times he heard his name. 3 times he ran to Eli, until the old priest finally understood this child was being summoned for a divine appointment that would reshape a nation. And what about you, beloved? How many times has your name been whispered in the darkness? How many times have you felt that gentle stirring, that holy restlessness that won't let you settle? That's not insomnia. That's invitation. God is calling you into the night watch, because what He's about to do in your life requires this kind of sacred solitude. But here's what breaks my heart. So many of God's chosen ones interpret their sleepless nights as punishment, when they're actually preparation. You think the tossing and turning means God has forgotten you, when it actually means He's positioning you. You believe the 3 a.m. wake-up calls are signs of His absence, when they're evidence of His presence drawing near. The night watch is where miracles are conceived. It's where Hannah prayed so fervently for a child that Eli thought she was drunk. It's where Jacob wrestled with God until daybreak and walked away with a new name and a new destiny. It's where Jesus spent entire nights in prayer before making decisions that would shake the world. And it's where you are right now, whether you realize it or not. You're in the watch, you're in the vigil, you're in the sacred space between what was and what's about to be. Every night you've cried yourself to sleep, God was collecting those tears in his bottle. Every prayer you whispered in the darkness, angels were carrying to the throne. Every time you felt forgotten, heaven was actually drawing the blueprints for your breakthrough. But here's the mystery that will change everything. The night watch isn't just about what God is doing for you. It's about who you're becoming in the process. Every sleepless night has been building your spiritual endurance. Every midnight prayer has been strengthening your faith muscles. Every 3 a.m. conversation with God has been preparing you for the weight of what's coming. Because what's coming, chosen one, isn't just an answer to your prayers, it's an assignment. God isn't just going to bless you, he's going to use you. The pain you've carried in the night seasons has been qualifying you to carry others out of their darkness. That financial struggle that kept you awake, it's preparing you to counsel others who think money is their God. That prodigal child who broke your heart, you're being trained to reach other parents who've lost hope. That regret that haunts your midnight hours, God is turning it into redemption stories that will set captives free. The night watch is ending, beloved. Dawn is breaking. But before you step into your morning of manifestation, I need to know, are you still here? Are you still in the watch with him? If you've made it this far, if your spirit is bearing witness to these words, if you feel the weight of destiny settling on your shoulders like a holy mantle, type "I'm still here" in the comments. Let heaven know you haven't given up. Let the angels see that you're ready for what comes next. Because what I'm about to reveal next will explain why every sleepless night was worth it. You know, chosen one, for 70, 80, maybe 90 years of your life, you've been living in chapters without knowing the author's intent. You've read your story day by day, page by page, wondering why some chapters felt so dark, why some seasons stretched so long, why some prayers seemed to echo in empty rooms. But what if I told you that every delay, every disappointment, every door that slammed in your face wasn't random? What if your entire life has been a scroll, and until this very moment, that scroll was sealed? Tonight, something extraordinary is happening in the spiritual realm. Can you feel it? That stirring in your chest that woke you up at this hour? That's not insomnia, beloved. That's anticipation. Because the scroll of your destiny, the one that's been sitting on heaven's desk with an unbroken seal for decades, tonight, it's finally being opened. Revelation 5 paints a picture that will shatter your understanding of delay. John sees a scroll in the right hand of the Almighty, sealed with 7 seals. And here's what gripped John's heart with terror. No one in heaven or earth or under the earth was worthy to open it. No one could break those seals. No one could reveal what was written inside. John wept. He wept because the scroll contained the future, the hope, the promises, and it seemed locked forever. But then the Lamb who was slain stepped forward, Jesus himself, and one by one, those 7 seals began to crack open. Do you understand what's happening to you right now? Your life hasn't been on hold. It's been sealed, waiting for the exact moment when heaven would say, now. Now it's time to reveal what I've written about your final chapters. The seal is breaking. The seal is breaking. The seal is breaking. Listen to me carefully, dear one. Every birthday you thought brought you closer to the end, every ache in your bones that reminded you of time passing, every moment you felt forgotten, overlooked, put on a shelf, that wasn't abandonment. That was anticipation. God was writing the last page of your scroll before placing it in your trembling hands. You see, the enemy convinced you that at your age, the story was winding down, that your best chapters were behind you, that your time of significance had passed. But I'm here to tell you something that will turn your world upside down. God saves the most magnificent endings for his most faithful readers. Why do you think the struggle has been so intense lately? Why does it feel like everything is falling apart just when you thought you'd found some peace? Because the enemy can read the writing on heaven's wall. He knows your scroll is about to be opened. He knows what's written on those pages, and he's terrified. But here's what makes my spirit tremble with holy excitement. When God decides to open a sealed scroll, nothing in hell can keep it closed. Nothing on earth can delay it. Nothing in your past can disqualify it. Think about Anna, the prophetess, 84 years old, widowed after just 7 years of marriage. For 77 years, she lived in the temple, fasting and praying, waiting for something she couldn't even name. People probably whispered, "Poor Anna," still waiting for a miracle that's never coming. But Luke 2:38 records the moment when everything changed. When baby Jesus was brought to the temple, Anna's scroll was finally opened. At 84, she became the first evangelist of the New Testament, proclaiming redemption to all who looked for it in Jerusalem. Her greatest moment didn't come at 25 or 45. It came at 84. Your scroll has your name on it, your story, your final rest that leads to your greatest awakening. But I need you to understand something that will cut deep into your soul. This letter isn't just about blessing, it's about assignment. When God opens your scroll tonight, you're not just receiving comfort for your golden years, you're receiving commission for your greatest years. Moses received his scroll at 80. For 40 years in Pharaoh's palace, he thought he was somebody. For 40 years in the wilderness, he thought he was nobody. But at 80, God opened his scroll and showed him he was the deliverer of nations. The burning bush wasn't the end of his story, it was the prologue to his purpose. The seal is breaking. The seal is breaking. The seal is breaking. Right now, as these words penetrate your spirit, something ancient is stirring, something that's been dormant, waiting, holding its breath. Can you feel it? That's not nostalgia. That's not wishful thinking. That's your scroll unraveling, revealing words written before time began. And here's what's going to shock you about what's written inside. Every tear you've cried is mentioned by name. Every midnight prayer is recorded with precision. Every act of faithfulness when no one was watching is documented with divine detail. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was random. Everything was preparation for what's written on the final pages. But you have to receive this letter. You have to take hold of what heaven is releasing. You can't stay in the mindset of yesterday when God is handing you the assignment of tomorrow. In just a moment, I'm going to invite you to do something that might seem simple, but carries profound spiritual significance. If this word is penetrating your heart, if you can feel the seal of your scroll cracking open, I want you to type your first name in the comments. Not as a comment, but as a signature. A signature that says, "Lord, I receive the letter. You've written about my life. I receive the assignment you've sealed for this moment." Because what I'm about to reveal next will show you exactly what's written on the pages of your scroll, and why your final rest tonight is actually the beginning of your greatest awakening. Chosen one, I need you to see something with me right now. Close your eyes for just a moment and picture this. You're standing at the edge of a wide river. The waters are dark, moving slow but deep. So deep you can't see the bottom. The current whispers of all the things you've lost, all the dreams that drowned, all the prayers that seemed to sink without a trace. On the other side, there's light. There's the life you've been praying for. There's the breakthrough you've been believing for. There's the version of yourself that God has been calling you to become. But here's what stops you cold between where you are and where you need to be, is this vast expanse of unknown water. And you're terrified to cross. But wait, look closer. Do you see it? There's a bridge that spans the entire river. A bridge built specifically for you. But here's the mystery. No one else can see it. Your family can't see it. Your friends can't see it. Even other believers walking the same shore can't see your bridge because it wasn't built for them. This is your Joshua 3 moment, beloved. Remember when the children of Israel stood at the Jordan River? After 40 years in the wilderness, they finally reached the edge of their promised land. But the river was at flood stage. The waters were raging. Logic said impossible. Fear said you'll drown. But God told Joshua something that will shake you to your core. When the priests carrying the ark step into the water, the river will stop flowing. Not before they stepped in, not after they felt safe. The miracle waited for their feet to touch the water. You know what your problem is right now. You're waiting for the water to part before you take the step. You're waiting to feel ready before you move forward. You're waiting for guarantees in a kingdom that operates on faith. But that's not how God works, chosen one. He doesn't give you the bridge after you prove you can swim. He builds the bridge from your willingness to walk when you can't see how. Let me tell you what this bridge is made of. Every plank under your feet was forged from a tear you cried in secret. Every rail you can grab onto was built from a prayer you whispered in the dark. Every support beam holding you up was crafted from an act of obedience when it made no sense to anyone else. That night you chose forgiveness when revenge felt better. That's a bridge plank. That Sunday you tithed when your bank account was screaming. That's another plank. That moment you praised God in the hospital room when the doctor's report was devastating. Bridge plank. That time you served someone else when your own heart was breaking. Bridge plank. God has been building your bridge for years, and you didn't even know it. But here's what terrifies you about crossing. What if you lose what little comfort you have left? What if stepping into the unknown costs you the familiar pain you've learned to manage? What if the other side isn't what you hoped for? What if you fall? Listen to me carefully. Your fear isn't afraid of falling. Your fear is afraid of flying. Because deep down, you know that once you cross this bridge, there's no going back to the person you used to be. Once you taste the other side, you can never again settle for the wilderness. But staying where you are isn't safe either, is it? The ground you're standing on is eroding. The familiar is becoming unbearable. The comfortable is becoming a prison. You've tried everything else. You've waited long enough. You've analyzed enough. You've feared enough. The bridge was built for your feet alone, not your neighbor's feet, not your pastor's feet, not even your spouse's feet, your feet. Every measurement was taken from your specific journey. Every weight calculation was based on your exact burdens. This bridge can hold you and everything you're carrying because it was designed by the architect of your destiny. Here's what the enemy doesn't want you to know. On the other side of this bridge is the place you've dreamed of but couldn't name. It's not just better circumstances. It's not just answered prayers. It's the fullness of who God created you to be before fear convinced you to live smaller. On the other side is the you who prays with authority and sees results. The you who speaks and watches worlds shift. The you who walks into rooms and darkness flees. The you who carries such presence that broken people feel hope just standing near you. But you have to cross the bridge to meet that version of yourself. Joshua 1-9 says, "Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." Notice God didn't say you wouldn't be afraid. He said, don't be afraid. Feel the fear, but don't let it be your master. Right now, as I'm speaking these words, some of you can feel your spirit pulling toward that bridge. Something inside you is saying yes while your mind is screaming, but what if? That tension you feel, that's the Holy Spirit inviting you to trust Him more than you trust your fear. The Israelites had a choice at the Jordan. They could stay in the wilderness where they knew how to survive, or they could cross into the promised land where they would have to learn how to thrive. They chose to cross. And the moment their feet touched the water, the impossible became inevitable. Your feet are at the water's edge right now. The bridge is solid beneath you, built from years of faithfulness you thought went unnoticed. God has been preparing this moment since before you knew you needed it. If you're ready to cross, if you're done living on the wrong side of your breakthrough, type, "I step forward" in the comments right now. Let heaven know you're done with the wilderness version of your life. But understand this, once you step onto this bridge, everything changes. Because the person who crosses over isn't the same person who was afraid to step on. The question that will haunt you forever if you don't answer it tonight is this: what if the life you've been praying for is just one step of faith away? You know what hurts the most? It's not the diagnosis they gave you last month. It's not the bills piling up on your kitchen counter. It's not even watching your children too busy to call. The deepest wound is sitting at your own table, alone. When was the last time someone invited you to theirs? When was the last time you felt wanted, valued, chosen? You've become invisible in your own family, haven't you? They gather for holidays and somehow forget to call. They plan vacations and you're an afterthought. They make decisions about your life without asking what you want. But listen to me, chosen one. While you've been sitting at empty tables, feeling forgotten by the world, God has been setting a table for you in the most impossible place imaginable. Psalm 23:5 declares something that will shatter every lie about your worth. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies, not in a palace, not in a peaceful garden, in the presence of enemies, in the middle of the battle, in the wilderness of your pain. Right now, as I speak these words, there is a table being prepared in the barren places of your life, a banquet table, fully set, in the middle of your driest season. While your family overlooks you, the King of Kings is laying out fine china with your name on it. While the world dismisses you as past your prime, heaven is pulling out your chair at the head table. Can you see it? In the midst of your loneliness, there stands a mahogany table, gleaming under supernatural light, crystal glasses catching fire from heaven's glory, golden plates reflecting promises yet to be fulfilled, the aroma of fresh bread rising in the desert air. This isn't a metaphor, beloved. This is your reality. The table is ready. The table is ready. The table is ready. But here's what will shock you about this divine dining room. Your enemies are watching. That family member who wrote you off. They're standing at the edge of the wilderness, watching in amazement as God honors you. That doctor who gave you 6 months, he's witnessing God add years to your life. That bank that rejected your loan application, they're seeing supernatural provision flow into your account. Every chair at this table represents a promise about to be fulfilled. The chair facing east holds your healing. The chair facing west holds your financial breakthrough. The chair facing north holds the restoration of relationships you thought were dead forever. The chair facing south holds the calling you thought you'd missed. And at the head of the table, that's where you sit. Not as a charity case, not as someone God feels sorry for, but as his honored guest, his beloved child, his chosen vessel for this generation. You think you're too old to matter? God prepared this table before time began, knowing exactly how old you'd be when you needed it most. You think you've made too many mistakes? The blood of Jesus has already cleansed every place, setting. You think it's too late for your dreams? This table exists outside of time, where your destiny doesn't have an expiration date. But I need to tell you something that might cut deep. Some of you won't pull up to this table. You'll look at it from a distance and say, "That can't be for me. I don't deserve that kind of honor." You'll let shame keep you standing while grace calls you to sit down and feast. Others will say, "I've been disappointed too many times. What if this is just another empty promise?" And you'll walk away from the very table God has been preparing while you suffered in silence. But not you. Not if you're still listening to my voice. Not if something in your spirit is recognizing the sound of invitation in these words. You've walked through too much wilderness to turn back now. You've survived too many battles to miss the victory banquet. This table isn't just about receiving, chosen one. It's about remembering who you are. When you take your seat, something shifts in the spiritual realm. Your enemies stop seeing you as a victim and start recognizing you as vindicated. Your critics stop whispering about your failures and start witnessing your favor. The same God who fed 5,000 with 2 fish and 5 loaves has prepared an endless feast for you. The same Jesus who turned water into wine has filled your cup with joy that your circumstances can't empty. The same Holy Spirit who raised Christ from the dead has breathed life into every promise that seemed dead in your situation. But here's the urgency burning in my spirit right now. This table won't wait forever. Divine invitations have divine timing. The chair with your name on it is being held, but not indefinitely. The feast is prepared, but it requires your presence to begin. So I'm asking you right now, in this sacred moment between heaven and earth, Will you pull up to the table God has prepared for you? Will you stop living like an orphan when the King has claimed you as his child? Will you take your seat at the banquet while your enemies watch and wonder how someone they counted out became someone God chose to honor? The table is ready. Your chair is waiting. The feast has your name written in the guest book of eternity. But the question that will determine whether you dine or continue to hunger is this: are you ready to believe you deserve a seat at God's table, even when the world convinced you that you belonged in the wilderness? Chosen one, there's something happening in the courts of heaven right now that will either shake you to your core or set you completely free. At this very moment, as you're listening to my voice, there's a registry being opened, a book with pages made of light itself. And on those pages, names are written. Not every name is on it, but yours is. Listen to me carefully, beloved. For 70, 80, maybe 90 years, you've walked this earth carrying a question that's eaten at your soul in the quiet moments. The question that visits you at 3 a.m. when sleep won't come. The question that whispers when you're sitting alone at that kitchen table, staring at walls that hold a lifetime of memories. Does anyone even know I'm here? Does my life matter? Have I been forgotten? You've watched the world change around you. You've buried friends, buried dreams, buried pieces of yourself you thought would live forever. You felt invisible in grocery stores, dismissed by younger voices, overlooked by a society that worships youth and discards wisdom. You've wondered if God himself has moved on to a newer model, a younger generation, leaving you to fade quietly into the background of his grand plan. That feeling of being forgotten. It's been your secret torment, hasn't it? The fear that maybe you missed your moment. Maybe you were never really chosen at all. Maybe you imagined those times when you felt his presence so close you could almost touch eternity. But I'm here tonight to shatter that lie with a truth so powerful it will resurrect hope in places where you thought hope had died forever. Isaiah 49:16 declares with thunderous authority, I have engraved you on the palms of my hands, not written, not typed, not penciled in where it could be erased. Engraved, carved deep, permanent, unchangeable. Do you understand what this means? Every time Jesus opens his hands to bless, he sees your name. Every time he reaches out to heal, your name is right there. Every time he intercedes for you at the right hand of the Father, he's looking at your name carved into his flesh. The God of the universe has your name tattooed on his hands, and you're worried about being forgotten. But here's where it gets even more profound. That registry I mentioned, it's not just any book, it's the book of those marked for this hour. And your name isn't just written there, it's highlighted, it's underlined, it's marked with the seal of divine appointment. You see, chosen one, you weren't born into this generation by accident. You weren't placed in this exact time and season randomly. You are a strategic deployment from heaven. Every wrinkle on your face tells a story of survival. Every gray hair is a crown of victory. Every struggle you've endured was preparation for what's about to unfold. While younger generations are distracted by screens and success, you carry something they don't have. You carry the authority of endurance. You've walked through valleys they've only read about. You've trusted God in darkness they've never experienced. You've learned to worship in the wilderness while they're still trying to find their way out of the parking lot. God didn't preserve you this long to let you fade into irrelevance. He's been saving you for such a time as this. The enemy has been whispering lies, telling you your time has passed, that your prayers don't carry weight anymore, that God's moved on to younger warriors. But those whispers are demonic deception designed to keep you from understanding the truth about this moment. The truth is this: your name is on the list of those who will not sleep tonight in the same condition they awakened this morning. Your name is written among those who will experience a divine acceleration that defies natural timelines. Your name is recorded in the registry of souls who will wake up tomorrow carrying breakthrough that's been decades in the making. But here's what separates those who just hear about the list from those who sign their agreement with heaven. I need you to do something right now that will seal this covenant between your faith and God's faithfulness. I need you to get a piece of paper, any paper, Write your full name on it, not tomorrow, not when this video ends. Right now. As you write those letters, you're doing more than penning ink on paper. You're entering into a sacred covenant. You're telling heaven, I believe my name is on your list. I receive what you've prepared for this hour. I agree with your timing and your methods. This isn't superstition. This is spiritual activation. When you write your name in faith, you're creating a point of contact between the supernatural and the natural. You're giving God permission to move in ways that will leave you speechless. Some of you are hesitating. Some of you are thinking, what if nothing happens? What if I'm just writing my name on a piece of paper for nothing? But that hesitation isn't wisdom. It's the very spirit of doubt that's kept you in cycles instead of breakthrough. The question isn't whether God will honor your faith. The question is whether you'll finally honor His invitation. Your name is already on the list, chosen one. The only question remaining is this: will you sign your agreement with what heaven has already decreed over your life? Because what happens next, what unfolds in the final act of this divine appointment, will require your signature on the covenant that's been waiting for your yes since before you drew your first breath. Beloved chosen one, as we reach the end of this sacred hour together, I need you to carry these eternal truths with you like precious stones in your heart. Remember this: tonight was never just another night. You didn't stumble upon this message by chance. Heaven orchestrated this divine appointment because your final rest in the wilderness has arrived. The same God who called Lazarus from the tomb is calling you from every place of death in your life. Your name, written in the palm of His hands, is on the registry of those marked for breakthrough. Remember this: you are not too old, not too forgotten, not too broken to be used mightily by God. Every gray hair is a crown of wisdom. Every wrinkle tells a story of endurance. Every scar bears witness to survival. The enemy tried to convince you that your best days were behind you, but God is declaring that your finest hour is just beginning. But most importantly, remember this: you are not walking this journey alone. Even when the road feels uncertain, even when the breakthrough seems delayed, even when doubt whispers lies in your ear, the Creator of the universe is working behind the scenes on your behalf. He's moving mountains you can't see, opening doors you haven't found yet, and orchestrating blessings you can't even imagine. And right here, in this digital sanctuary we've created together, you have thousands of brothers and sisters who understand your struggles, who believe in your calling, and who are ready to stand with you in prayer. We're not just viewers on a screen, we're a family, united by faith, connected by hope, and bound together by the love of Christ. Let me ask you this final question, and let it settle deep in your spirit. Now that you know your name is on heaven's list, now that you understand this is your final rest in the season of waiting, what will you wake up tomorrow prepared to receive? Before I release you into your destiny, I want you to close your eyes with me. Wherever you are, whether you're alone in your living room, lying in your bed, or sitting in that chair where you've cried so many tears, I want you to feel the presence of the Almighty surrounding you right now. Let me pray over you with the authority of someone who has witnessed God's faithfulness for decades. Heavenly Father, I place my hand on the shoulder of every precious soul hearing these words. Lord, you see them, not just their pain, but their potential, not just their past, but their purpose, not just their scars, but their strength. Tonight, Father, I ask you to breathe fresh wind into their weary souls. Where they feel depleted, restore them. Where they feel forgotten, remind them of their worth. Where they feel overwhelmed, be their peace. Let them sleep tonight, knowing that their name is written in your book, their future is secure in your hands, and their breakthrough is guaranteed by your faithfulness. God, open doors that no man can shut. Provide resources they haven't even thought to ask for. Send divine connections that will accelerate their purpose. Give them dreams and visions that will clarify their next steps. Surround them with people who see their value, who honor their wisdom, and who will walk alongside them without trying to dim their light. Most of all, Father, let them wake up tomorrow with unshakable confidence in who they are in you. Let them rise with authority, walk with purpose, and speak with the voice of someone who knows they belong to the King of Kings. In Jesus' mighty name, Amen. Now, I want to hear from you. In the comments below, share what shifted in your spirit tonight. What is God speaking to your heart? What are you believing Him for in this new season? Don't hold back. Your testimony might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to keep holding on. If this message touched your soul, please share it with someone who needs to remember they're not forgotten. There's someone in your life right now who feels exactly like you felt when you first clicked on this video. Be the vessel that carries this hope to them. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. You're not just subscribing to content, you're joining a movement of chosen ones who refuse to give up, who believe in the impossible, and who know that God's best is yet to come. Every week, we gather here to be reminded of who we are, whose we are, and why we're still here. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey. Thank you for opening your heart, for believing against doubt, and for daring to write your name on that piece of paper. Your faithfulness tonight has been recorded in heaven's books. Sleep well, chosen one. Your final rest in this season has begun. Tomorrow, you wake up different. Tomorrow, your resurrection story starts. Until we meet again, walk as who you are, beloved, chosen, and destined for breakthrough. God bless you mightily.